I think we've had an excellent presentation. The film is an excellent presentation, but there's certainly some issues in terms of what's being said. I would like to say I'm a member of the Essex Wildlife Trust. I'm also a member of the Woodland Trust. And I also got into the political process. I became a councillor because I started out where a lot of people in this room are. I was a protester against local development, so that's where I started. I wrote down something that was said earlier on. If you can't put up right facts, don't put up any at all, you're misleading people. Now, I think some of the things that are being said in the film are excellent. They're absolutely true. There are also things which are being said in this which are essentially misleading people. I'll just go through a couple of the things which I think are misleading here. Let's talk about building on brownfield sites. In Brentwood, I don't know the figures for Basildon, but I'll give you the figures for Brentwood. In Brentwood, in terms of what our officers tell us, we have enough brownfield sites to build 2,500 houses. In terms of the way the objectively assessed need figures come out, we're being asked to look for places for 5,500 houses. So we have 3,000 sites that we need to try and find a location for, and we can't find them on brownfield land. So the idea that everything can be done on brownfield land won't work. I understand that's not popular, but that's the reality we're faced with. It's also not true to say that in terms of the objectively assessed need, the councils have deliberately gone to the higher end of the figures that were presented to them. The way the objectively assessed need is extremely complicated, and I have to say it's effectively it's something that the council, the national government has done to local councils in order to drop it on us and drop it on your local representatives to make it look like we're doing something. We're not essentially doing it. The objectively assessed need is something we have been asked to come up with. In Brentwood, we went out to some local consultants. They came up with a figure. The figure that they come out with is something that we need to stick to. And I'll just give you an example. Anybody here who knows where Uttlesford is in Essex, Uttlesford tried to put forward figures in their local plan which were not as high as the planning inspector wanted them to put in. I checked on it earlier on today. It seems to me they put in figures of 10,000 sites, and the inspector, it looks like from the report I saw, the inspector thought they should have had 1,000 more sites than that. Because the inspector didn't think that their 10,000 sites were enough, the inspector threw their local plan out of court. Now, I have been in a situation where I've sat in a room where the local council is trying to defend local people's interests against the interests of commercial companies. You've got to remember that what you get down to with planning is that ultimately, if a commercial company, a lot of house builders want to come along and build on land, and the local plan won't defend you because the local plan is too weak because it has numbers which are too small in terms of quote-unquote objectively assessed need, the developer will be able to run roughshod over your local council, your opinions, everybody's opinions. There won't be a vote involved, there won't be a consultation involved, they will just be able to do what they want. What your local councils have to do is to do their responsible process properly, and this is what we're trying to do. It's a consultation. This is an excellent thing. This is exactly what consultation is all about. Respond to the consultation and say what you don't like about it. We also, as local councils and responsible local councils, have to find solutions to these problems. These are problems we're being left with by central government.
Thank you. Now, many of us have children, as say, who want to live close to home. They are having to move away. Against this background, the government is setting these housing targets that we as local authorities are being asked to meet. So where do I and the Lib Dems stand on the Green Belt? And it's very, very simple. We must exhaust all the brownfield options. We must do that before we ever look at the Green Belt. So let me be very, very clear on that. Okay, but there is going to come a time, and it won't be popular in this room, I accept that, but there is going to come a time when we have to look at the Green Belt. There is only so much brownfield around, so we have to do that. We have no choice. Now, if you ask residents about building on the Green Belt, 99% would say, no way, over my dead body. But if you then say to those people, do you want to see more homes built? A lot of them would say, yes, I do. So the problem is, where do we put all those new homes?
And let's just bear in mind, anywhere which is in the borough of Brentwood, which is not already brownfield curtilage, urban curtilage, is Greenbelt. There isn't a single piece of undeveloped greenfield site. It's not there. So, do we want to develop on the green belt or don't we? And I come increasingly down to think that actually I can't find anybody who does. I certainly don't. The question is, can we find a way of seeing it off? Well, all the advice that I've had, and I've been a Brentwood Borough Councillor for a few years, we were in control before the current coalition took over, we had the same advice that they had. No, you have to do it. You have to do it. There's going to have to be development on the green belt. Well, there's got to be some way of showing to the planning inspectorate that there is no very special circumstance. I can't speak for Basildon. I don't know Basildon well enough, but certainly Brentwood, and I can't imagine Basildon's that different. Certainly Brentwood, there is no very special circumstance, which means we need to rip up our green belt. And therefore, we need to actually fight back very robustly. Encouraged to hear that there have been a couple of recent court cases where the High Court has upheld the interest of the green belt over development proposals which were put forward as very special need because of housing need. Given that that's recently happened, I think we probably have a slightly better hand to play than we have before. And I certainly will be putting in my own objection to the Garden Sullivan the way it is at the moment. I know Tony and Colin at the back are going to be thinking he's changing his mind because the danger is, and I recognise the danger, that if we see, can I just finish off?
Yep, sure.
The danger is that if we don't support this, then it goes back to Plan A, which was an impossible amount of development round and about the village of West Thorndon, which we know we don't want to see. So, how high risk a strategy is it to try and see off the overall development on the green belt at all? It's obviously a high risk, but actually I think it's worth the play. So let's get those objections in. Thank you.
But finally, in addition to those three normal things, there is this encroachment of the green belt. Now, as a county council, I have to say, I mean, I'm a bit ambivalent, a bit like my colleague Roger Hurst on this. We do have to consider whether the green belt ought to be breached in some situations, because otherwise we just could not do anything. As a country, I'm talking about. But I want to just say this about, and it is something slightly different to what the film drew out, which was very good, but I want to say this. This particular encroachment on the green belt would, in our view, be fundamentally wrong, because it would lead to a coalescence of the main settlements. It would begin to lead to a coalescence of Basildon with Brentwood and with Thurrock. And we note that as a unitary authority, Thurrock has carried out an assessment of the green belt and does, as far as I'm aware, object strongly to this particular proposal. Thurrock is a Labour-controlled authority. I'm unashamedly a Conservative in a strongly Conservative-controlled county council. Essex County Council and Thurrock Unitary Council agree.